way I can go back into the call and go through everything and make sure that I don't miss anything. And that way they could come to me and say, hey, I was on this call and, it didn't go too well. And then we can, as a team, watch the call, analyze it, form a strategy and approach it from that angle. And that's worked really, really well for us. And most customers, I think we've had one customer in Germany that said, no, he doesn't want to be recorded. Most of them said, oh, sure, yeah, that's a great idea. Record the call, make sure nothing gets missed. And what they typically do after a call is they would watch it and they would type up their minutes accordingly. And what that also allows them to do is not sit with, typing something or making notes during the call, but they would really engage with the customer during the call because they know they got the recording to go and do the minutes afterwards. So that's one of the kind of things that have really, really worked well for us. Lastly, I tried to start an organization, Vaughan, similar to this last year because I've got a passion for giving back. I've been very, very fortunate, to have a very successful career. Post-COVID, in my 30-year career, I've never had a down year. In fact, with KG, our growth has been between 22 and 27% year on year. And I felt I wanted to give back. So I started an organization called Sales Leaders Without Boundaries. I partnered up with a couple of knowledgeable people. Unfortunately, they wanted to monetize it. And I withdrew out of it because that wasn't my intent. My intent was to give back, very much like this forum today. And that's why I joined this forum. But yeah, having a group like this from different industries helps because it sparks a different thought process. Two things that out of that experience that I've realized is there is no secret sauce, that you can pour over the problem and it goes away. Everybody's situations are unique and you need to address it in a unique fashion. And the other thing is, the worst salesman out there is the ex-Xerox salesman because they're not going to change. So, I've heard this, I've been doing this for so many years and I know how to sell and so forth. Those type of salespeople and don't change. And I'm fortunate to say my sales team is actually all fairly young, not inexperienced, but young, and they adapt pretty fast. So for the older folk, maybe one like yourself and myself, what might be a problem in our mind, the younger salesperson don't see it as a problem at all. We kind of think of it, oh, how are you going to approach this? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. I've got this. And that's where the communication really helps because we might think something is a problem and they just skate past it. So yeah, that's a couple of things from my side.
Yeah, two really good tips from that. And the recording of the presentations, I think, is brilliant. And that's thank you. I'm going to start using that one myself. Appreciate that. And I think you make a second really great point, Aaron, in that there are, I don't want to show any ageism because I am one of the older Americans, but the fact is I'm probably one of the 1%ers that has embraced technology from the beginning and have stayed current with it and constantly introduced myself to new technology. Most of my fellow 60-plus-year-old sales professionals have resisted that. And it really, frankly, is easier to get younger individuals to embrace the new approach to things, or even change. It's a resistance to change that I think is such a challenge to so many industries. And so thanks for bringing all that up.
Now, one thing I haven't touched yet, because maybe it's not the correct audience, is the cultural roadmap, dealing on a global scale. I don't know if that interests anybody, but maybe we can discuss that at a different stage.
Well, Aaron, let me put that down as a topic to be, because I think that would really be fascinating. Because, I've got guys that work with me over in say, Ireland, and, how they have to approach management and that sort of thing is very different there than what we can do here in the States because of the laws. And so there are cultural norms that vary from region to region across the globe.
Even across the U.S.
Oh, well, absolutely. I've got a client in Montana that is a very unique state from labor laws, and they have to approach things completely different than 49 other states. So yeah, let's get that on the list of future topics and put that worm in the water. So thanks for that. And Dan, it sounds to me like you you've got reps working with you. Do you call them reps or business development or
SDR?
SDR. Okay. And how have you, now that we're starting to open back up, but we've just gone through a year of not being able to go out and press the flesh. Tell me a little bit about how you guys adapted and some of the key learnings that you had.
Thank you. I agree that recording is actually incredibly efficient, both as a remembering what you may have missed, and then also a tactic to use as a follow-up. So, with me, I want to chisel away within the confines of like a marketing agency. So I'll send it, and instead of having to do 25 calls, I'll just do a presentation and just send it to them and say, spread it around. It's 20 minutes. You can have your lunch and listen to me spiel while I'm going on. I will say, interestingly enough, well, first of all, the SDR just got hired. They literally gave me the go ahead to get him hired. He's completely fresh. I believe that technology has actually excelled the sales process. I think this is absolutely tremendous. Look, I miss flying all over the country and taking people to ball games. And, I took out my first client inside of a bar yesterday for the first time since last March. It was weird, but it was awesome to actually have that communication. I will say there's a lot of nonverbals that we couldn't pick up on phone calls for a very long amount of time. You didn't know what they're doing. They could have been feeding their dog. They could have been on the Peloton and they come back in a half hour and you're still talking. Unless you were in a room with the person, it was very much not a normality to be able to see the person and talk to the person and see their reactions. So the advantage now, and even more than before, was you might be able to work a room, and you were able to work a room, but you're focusing on, the people who are raising their hands, and you're focusing on the people who are talking. It's that person in the corner who's taking notes. He or she is the one who's going to be calling you first. You had no idea who it was. With this and this whole Brady Bunch world we live in now, I'm actually able to see everybody's faces and see who raises their eyebrows and who's scribbling notes. And I can keen on that and put it into the fact that those are the ones who are paying attention. So I would say that's an advantage for the salesperson, because I know they're paying attention because their eyes are locked on the actual screen. And even to the extent, sometimes like your glasses, I can actually see them looking at different slides off their glasses. And I'm like, okay, it's like an open rate you don't have to deal with because it's literally in front of your face. So my experience with my new SDR has been, I am a very different salesperson. I'm a consultative seller. I do not believe in a hard sell. I use my personality. I like to have fun on pitches. I like to make it loose. To me, it's like, the guy who walks in with a pink shirt every single meeting, you're like, that's the guy with the pink shirt. He keeps you memorable, it keeps you top of mind. But to me, if you're a little more loose, you're a little more fun, they're going to remember you, because at the end of the day, they're buying you. They're people buy people. There's a lot of the same products out there in the world. And if I can relate to them and they're like, hey, I like this guy, I can trust this guy. He's exuberant, makes it sounds like he likes what he does. More importantly, it sounds like the product is fun. It might not be, but it's that rapport building. That's what I'm trying to teach. And I'm turning on like the gas in terms of like even being more eccentric with the SDR watching. But very much it's, we live in a world where people are more accepting on taking these video calls, and I'm teaching him like the tactics. It's almost like a poker match, the eyebrow raise, the scribble.
The ability to hear a dog barking in the background and straight face your way through the entire thing and like act like it's not even there. Yeah, exactly. Seeing a little kid like shoot through the background and just going.
I have 3-year-old twins. I've had a twin.
Yeah.
I've had clients who want my twins on the calls with me. So
yeah. I got new puppies, and I've had clients ask like, "Can we see your dog?" And you're like, "Yeah, he's right here."
I just think the whole thing, you didn't see any, like the only real personable moments you had with potential clients was that 5 minutes from the elevator and those 5 minutes to the elevator at the end of the meeting. And maybe that's where you differentiate yourself. You got that pain point they didn't tell you about. You learned a little bit more. Now you have everything. I mean, I can look in everybody's background and see like a University of Michigan hat. I can see I got a kid. That's pretty obvious. I got the dog thing going for me. You now have a lot of icebreakers, which might not be obvious, but that's a great way to get in the door. And so when something happens, like I work in the sports world. So when I know, Northwestern won a football game yesterday, I know exactly who I'm going to ping to bring that up. And that gets you a conversation going. You don't have to play this hard sell. They're like, hey, you're paying attention. They like that. So I actually, as much as I dislike sitting in my office and not being able to go downtown back to Chicago and my WeWork and not be able to be in New York and LA every single week, I have figured out the advantages of technology selling. I prefer it ended a little sooner than we can because I like to be able to go back and talk to people. But certainly, this has been an advantage for me. I mean, this is much better than a conference call or a random phone call where you have no idea what they're doing on the other end. So,
well, and let me just make a quick point. Aaron made it earlier. I have found now that I'm not running around from city to city, I've got all this additional time that I can fill, and I can literally sit here from 6 in the morning until 6 at night talking to folks. Either doing my coaching and training or making presentations to people. My days have doubled in productivity. So it's an awesome plus. So thanks for all that, Dan. And one of the things that you said that I struck with me from that you're working with your SDR is, read the room, right? Look around, look for those keys, look for those talking points. And it really is, it's a better opportunity, and I see it to absorb this person and some of the things that they are presenting in the background or for themselves. And you talked about even, body language and taking notes and, that's some CIA stuff, reading the reflection off their glasses, but all great points. Thanks for sharing that, Dan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've also told my sales team that we need to lead by example because they were coming back to me and saying, oh, we don't switch on our video because nobody switches on their video. No, you switch on your video, you are presentable. Sorry, I'm busy packing for a Mexico trip, so I've got my T-shirt on, but, you're presentable and you lead by example. And since they've done that, the customers switch on the video because they feel obliged to switch on the video. I had to laugh. We've got one customer, he felt so obliged. He switched on the video and he had his daughter's headphones like Hello Kitty with kitten ears, and sitting there in his daughter's room with all the paraphernalia behind him. And he was apologetic about it, but it was fine. And it led to conversation and daughters and kids and so on. But it was great at the end of the day because we switched on our cameras. He felt obliged to switch on his camera as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's one of the biggest challenges sales professionals face is getting those damn cameras on. And, you said that the most basic of all of them, just turn your camera on.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that you actually have to train your salespeople to handle those objections, right? Before it's always the objection on price and the other stuff. I actually had one of a customer that we've dealt with for years, which has been able to get into a different business units. And the guy's like, I've got a face for radio. And I'm like, man, I'm from Kentucky. A man looks how a man looks is what they say where I'm from. So turn it on, let's talk. And so, it's just that natural, you have to find a way to the new objections, it's powerful, and like Dan was saying, there's so much information at our fingertips now that, you can just judge it just even by the way the person's leaning in or talking or speaking. And then you're just trying to constantly pick up on those things. But I think, like you said, it's a matter of understanding kind of what's out there. But I think it really bridges the gap because I don't know, I wasn't really selling for the first couple of months of COVID. I was just doing, well visits and calls, hey, how's everything going? Are you going back to the office? Does it suck? That kind of thing. So, but yeah, you're right.
We actually shipped face masks to customers because, long story, but we have a division that builds machines, and one of the machines they built was face mask machine. So we said, okay, all the test samples, send them to us, and we were sending them to our customers. And when our customers said, we don't need any more, we said, okay, name a charitable organization, we'll send it there on your behalf. And it was like, wow, and it cost nothing.
Yeah.
It literally, it was stuff that it was test samples they were going to throw away. So just thinking of these little things, like you said, ask the customer, how are you doing? Have you been vaccinated? Now they tell me in California, you can't ask the question, have you been vaccinated? No. I ask everybody, have you been vaccinated?
Yeah. You can't even ask whether it's you're a boy or a girl out here. So,
yeah.
And that you live in.
I always just say I'm the South African. I don't know these things. That's the question anyway.
He's like just constantly asking for forgiveness. I'm sorry, I didn't know you didn't do that.
Exactly.
So you identify as a Black & Decker toaster. That's awesome. I was really proud of you.
And Danny, I'm fascinated with your industry because office furniture, right? And one of the businesses one of the industries I believe is going to be highly affected by all of this is office space, right? And you're talking about repurposing office space. What are you guys doing in the way of presentations? You can't see the office space. So what's happening with you guys and how you're using virtual?
Yeah, so it was a little difficult for us at first to adjust. We did adjust during COVID. We were able to, show our furniture through pictures and examples and 3D modeling, 3D, renderings of office space. And we do have some different showrooms that people could come to. At first, no one was coming to showrooms. Everything was shut down. But as you started to get into, I guess, the fall, definitely when people started getting vaccinations, we had specific appointments where we'd allow people to come in, just, individuals come in and see things, everyone masked, only a couple people in the showroom at a time. So we were able to adjust, but it just came down to giving better presentations. We had to get better at describing, better at positioning, better at talking about our value. Varies a little bit different in the fact that we don't go through dealerships. So most commercial furniture goes through dealerships. So it's the manufacturer to the dealer to the client, and we are the manufacturer. So it goes right from the manufacturer to the client. So we were competing against the dealers in each market, that had a physical space, that had physical showrooms to show. And so we were doing things, even prior to our showrooms, prior to COVID, we were selling nationally out of our headquarters in Dallas, and we were selling it virtually there. We would sell a lot just over the phone or just over the internet through Zoom calls. We were doing Zoom calls prior to COVID. For bigger sales, we were traveling those. So kind of like Aaron, it sounded like you were going out, for the closes, for the bigger sales, bigger clients. We were doing that. And so that had to shut down, and we had to just get better at closing deals, through the use of the internet. I think that, I forget who mentioned it. I think Dan said that technology, has really helped and really grown. I don't think that we will go back to how it was. I think that we have evolved enough that we are able now to use technology to its fullest. And so I don't know that we will go back completely to in-person solely, but I also don't think that we're just going to be online either. So I think as we come out of COVID, it'll be more of a hybrid model in terms of in terms of using technology and being in person. One of the things that has really hurt us is the networking. So it's hard to network over Zoom, over the internet. Dan had mentioned about how like building relationships with people and having connections with people. And yes, you're able to do that a little bit if you have a outgoing, verbose, personality where you're able to really come through the phone or come through the internet. But it's hard to build relationships, through a set meeting. Oftentimes those relationships are built more on a casual, ad hoc, over drinks, at a trade show, wherever you are. And that was really difficult for us. We deal a lot in the commercial real estate industry. So CREs, builders, that kind of industries. And we were relying heavily on networking prior to COVID. So that's starting to come back, and we are starting to get back out there and to see people, but that has been difficult for us.
And I'm interested, Denny, thanks for all that. You made mention of having to get better at closing virtually. What have you learned from a virtual standpoint? What you had to do more of, less of? How did you have to change behaviors to get better at closing?
Yeah, we had to get better at asking great questions. So I think a lot of what you took for granted in person. So I think Dan was talking about how you used to be able to walk into their business, walk into their office and see a lot of who they were and what their values are, what their culture is, just by visualizing or just by seeing the business and seeing the client and seeing their office space. We couldn't do that anymore. They were at their home, we were at their home, or we were at our home. And so it came down to asking better questions, really understanding their need, asking them, what is your culture? Describe that to me. How do you live your culture? What does your team look like? How do they work? How are they engaging with each other? So where you used to be able to go in and see that in person and get more, just an intuitive feel to it, you really had to ask better questions.
Well, I think you have to close harder as well. Previously the situation was that you would do your pitch, and if they wanted the pitch from your opposition, they would set up an appointment and it would take time. Now they just set up a Zoom call. They can literally 15 minutes after you've closed your pitch be on the line with your opposition. So I think you got to close a little bit harder selling virtually than what the traditional means were.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
and go ahead.
You can't do it over drinks, and you can't there's no handshakes. Literally.
Literally, yes.
Literally.
I also I have a very strong social status. I love social media, and so I'm lucky enough to coming into this. I've had to find any means possible to network. So LinkedIn has been amazing for me. Absolutely amazing. And it's more about just putting out content and letting people approach you. I've had to do some really random things. I joined a thing called the Dad Chat, which was a bunch of sports marketing dudes who have kids. And we expanded to 40 of us now. And we just kind of help each other out. I really think that we used to really use our primary relationships and bank on those primary relationships. But I think now, since nobody really knew what the heck we're getting ourselves into, that those secondary and those tertiary waves of people really have helped. I mean, I have spent more time lobbing deals or lobbing ideas back among other people than I've ever done in my life. And it just seems like I've actually, I don't want to say the word met. I don't even know if they have legs because I've never actually seen them stand up, but there are certainly a lot more people who are willing to help if they like you or they like what you're saying, because I think more than ever, things are going around in circles. I mean, it's send the elevator back down because we all were at a position of non-strength. I mean, nobody knew. And I think more importantly, the beginning of these conversations, I have a half-hour conversation with somebody, I've spent 5 minutes now just purely ice breaking. I could care less what their job is. I could care less what we're supposed to be talking about. for a while there, we just needed some human conversation. We just needed to actually know that there was some normalcy going on and that people are going through the same stuff. That was the stuff that really resonated. The beginning of this whole experience were those conversations and, there's people who are like, yeah, my kid got incredibly sick, or like, my mother was in the hospital, and like you went from being that random salesperson to like, you're almost like a guiding light. You're listening to them almost like
confidant.
Yeah. And it's those relationships, which, I mean, the conversations before have been great. I mean, because, my company has always been positioned perfectly. We're an at-home engagement company. Well, whoop-de-doo, look what happened. But the early conversations are the ones who are like, I remember I listened to you ramble like a year ago, and I don't want to use you, but I liked what you said. They came back around, but there's more referrals coming in than I've ever seen before, because you spent all that time. And I know that we were all grinding pre-COVID, but all those grinds that we had came back like 10 times as strong. So it's unbelievable. Like I'll wake up I love what I do because I wake up every single day and I have no idea who's going to ping me. It's an awesome thing to have. And you're like, I got approached today by a guy who pitched one of my first months at this job. I haven't heard from him in years. And he's like, I actually used your stuff and I pitched you, and I have a potential deal for us to do. It's refreshing. It means it. And at that time, they didn't really care. They never came back around. And at this point, like their hands are tied. They're relying on you to be not only the subject matter experts, but also like, you're like the personality guy. You're the salespeople. Like, light up the room a little bit, light up my life. So that's it. I will say, Vaughn, this thing is amazing. I like these conversations. I got to prep for a kickoff deal. So I'd love to do another one of these.
Love to keep you on the list, and we'll keep you on the list, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But cheers to you all. Keep rocking and rolling. Keep making money.
Yeah, and throw out the connection request, and we'll gladly accept them. Thank you.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Cheers.
And again, we're approaching the top of the hour, and if anybody wants to stay, we're going to carry on the conversation, because I want to bring Todd in here. Todd, you've got the biggest consumer of, you got the biggest employer in the world as your target audience. Tell me a little bit about how your approach in the virtual world has changed.
Well, for us, we have a number of different things going on. Sales is interesting and somewhat non-traditional for us oftentimes, because, in some instances, we are trying to sell our flashlights to soldiers, warfighters, law enforcement. Other times, we are trying to just let soldiers, warfighters, people know that if they are like a combat medic, for example, their lights are standard issue and they already are on a shelf at somewhere. Like, for example, if you're in the National Guard, and you're a combat medic or a combat lifesaver, and your kit, one of our lights is going to be in there, and you need to get it from the medical material warehouse in Minnesota, National Guard. There's 54 National Guards. None of them talk to each other. Everyone we talk to is, what? It's there? Like, they have no idea. I know that's shocking with the, U.S. government, but so oftentimes sales for us is just awareness to push, like, go get stuff that's already on the shelves. Other times it's straight up, here's what we do, and you can buy our lights. Now, our lights are super specialized, so there is no substituting face-to-face. Being in front of people, being on bases, being in police departments, trade shows. You have guys that are, or folks that are maybe a little bit leery of vendors anyway, because there's, always that like, whoa, I can't be talking to vendors or showing any preference, that kind of thing. So oftentimes we have to be on base in front of people, showing them how the lights work, letting them use them. So there's absolutely no substitute for that. And then while they are the biggest employer, defense budgets are super nebulous. You might have a massive defense budget, but it's on continuing resolution for a decade. So things don't get increased, or we decide that we're not going to be an army of readiness anymore, and things get lax. Even with the previous administration, conventional wisdom would be, well, that's going to be a big defense budget, and that was true, but the money's going to weird places, not necessarily to flashlights. And then when COVID hit, National Guard, Border Patrol, big customers of ours, were, instead of flashlights, they were getting equipped with PPE to be out on the front lines doing testing and stuff. And we actually, for a short period of time, we're in an old school in a tiny town. We were literally old school. And there can't be anybody else on a Zoom call in this building for me to do this one. So, but the company that is in the back half of this, and actually the gymnasium of this school, they manufacture supplements and things. And as a matter of fact, they had manufactured the cream and the clear, the berry bonds, if that rings any bell, performance enhancing type stuff for athletes several years ago. And now they're all into keto. Well, they have all kinds of food grade and equipment stuff. So we made hand sanitizer, and a massive batch of hand sanitizer in conjunction with a local semi-regional healthcare facility, and provided that to the Minnesota National Guard for them to deploy. So it wasn't a huge money maker for us or anything, but we had to do something. We were all bored as hell just staring at each other here. We had just lost a sales guy right before COVID hit. Decided not to add a boots on the ground guy because we couldn't have boots on the ground. So we've really started to get into some business development side of things. We have some telemedicine initiatives. I'm working with a couple major hardware and software manufacturers that I can't name, and a couple major healthcare systems for some austere telemedicine, which would work in the commercial realm. But for us, we want it on the battlefield, all hands-free. We've actually developed a headset that can be completely audio, video, heads-up display, light, everything that can be completely controlled hands-free. And we have patents on all this stuff. So a lot of intellectual property is where we've been focusing our time this last year. It's all activated by, it senses the clench of your jaw. It's nuts. Our owner, my partner, is a inventor and crazy man, 6'7", crazy man. So he has, Jeremy is his name. He has done, from the virtual side of things, a lot of business development virtually in these types of meetings, one-on-one with folks, and that's been effective. But there's not really a way for us to say, find 200 soldiers and have sales meetings with them. So we are finding contract managers, the SIFs, different people at bases, National Guard installations, and doing virtual demos one-on-one, sending them product, doing a virtual demo, then getting them out at their training expos like Modern Day Marine, Best Warrior competitions, things like that. We actually were able to go to a trade show for law enforcement last month in person in St. Louis, which was fantastic. It was less than 500 people, but it was great for us because we were excited to be out. People were excited to see us. And, we, at those kind of things, we have trainers that use our lights in their training programs that are not employed by us, we don't pay them at all. They don't even want us to buy them dinner. And a lot of times that will drive people to our booth. So going back to, we basically have to be in front of people for the actual end user. So, we've kind of tried to climb up the chain a little bit with, like I said, with program managers and buyers, to do some one-on-one and demo type stuff. But, we had a guy in El Paso at the Special Operations Group Border Patrol show this week. He'll be in Pennsylvania at the National Guard next week, down in Mississippi at National Guard. So I would say that a lot of the virtual interactions have allowed us to set up these meetings and meet key individuals, but it is not something that we can use on a mass application. So it's been very challenging for us. When the government decides they're not going to spend money, then they don't spend money. Even if our customers, they want to buy, and then they're just waiting for sign off here, and when I'm talking about buys like this could be anywhere from $30K to $1 million, worth of lights at a time. Like for example, our standard issue for combat lifesaver lights, typically they buy those in batches of 5,000 4 times a year. They bought 0 last year, 0.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of kicked us into gear with trying some of this business development stuff with our telemedicine initiatives, and really trying to push some of our intellectual property, because that's where a lot of our our equity and value is in our patents. We have a whole host of them, but talking to the salespeople we do have, our inside salespeople are now becoming our outside salespeople, because they've made all the connections while sitting here, and now they're out and about. So it's really been a challenge for us, especially a company of 9 people in rural Illinois, to leverage this the best we can. We feel like we have, but we're so unique. I would say that I have 2 in college. One's up in the Chicago suburbs and one's in the city. One in the city has been home because all of DePaul's classes were online, and he's actually helped us a ton. He used to work here in the summers, and now he's helped us a ton, kind of getting up to speed, because not just learning how to use Zoom or whatever. It's that everybody we talk to, like if we talk to someone in Texas, they may need to use Teams. Someone else no, let's just FaceTime me. Oh, I can't use my government use computer. You're going to just have to call my phone, and we'll do a FaceTime, and I'll have the guys huddle around. So there's literally been no one way, which I'm sure for most people, but for us, there is just no substitute for showing someone how to use the light and then handing it to them and then them doing it. Because even if we do virtual stuff, we end up getting calls, well, I'm stuck in infrared mode, or, because it's the most hands-on, hard good product, it just is. And it's complicated because of all the features. So for us, I'm rambling a bit, but it's every day is kind of a new challenge in trying to figure out how we can use this. Back to, Dan's comments, we have done a lot of LinkedIn networking. We've really utilized that a lot, especially with the business development stuff we've got going on with some of these things that are not DoD.
Do you guys sell into any of the primes, or do you guys sell to the USG direct?
Both. Yeah, we have TLS prime vendors. We sell direct. Like Minnesota, they love to go direct with us. But some of our prime vendors, we have 50% prepay. And on a $500,000 order for a 9-person company that carries no inventory,
right,
it's pretty critical,
Sure. No, my previous life, I was a packaging specialist for defense companies. So when Uncle Sam wanted to ship a laser JDAM, they would contact us and we'd do the draw up on it. So I was a director of engineering.
We try to, do whatever is easiest, a lot of times things are going to hit DIBS board or Fed Biz Ops and those kind of things. And
no, definitely. Please connect with me for sure. I've got a good friend of mine who still does some packaging solutions for a material manufacturer. So now he's able to get into all of the other places that we used to compete with. So and he's had quite a bit of success at Picatinny Arsenal and a couple of the other ones, Rock Island, as well as some other ones. So definitely, please send me your info, and we'd love to hear more about it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the reasons I definitely wanted to be involved in this, was the networking opportunities, and really to hear what other people, our business is so unique and so vertical that, we kind of get hunkered down in our own world.
Your diversification that you're talking about with the teledoc and telemedicine, it sounds, like a natural reaction after, your bread and butter kind of drops down to zero and you're looking around going, we better not have all the eggs in this basket. Yeah. What else we got? So definitely. Makes a lot of sense.
My oldest boy, he goes to North Central. He's getting his MBA up in Naperville, finishing his last year of college baseball. He's already started his full-time job, and it is a sales onboarding training company. And everything he does is virtual. And it's funny because he's not even out of school and he's already, just blasting through, because he's young and he's training people that are 30 and he's 23. And, going back to your point earlier, Ron, about, and you too, Aaron, that these young people, they're so adaptable that, we've learned quite a bit from how his company and their platform is doing things because, we don't have many young people here. I'm 50 and I'm about the youngest. So, it has been eye-opening and valuable to see what other people are doing, regardless of what industry they're in.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us, and you're in a fascinating business, as I said at the onset of this. So thanks for sharing all that. And Brian, I did want to hear how you've made adjustments to the new virtual world. What's different? What are some of the things you're learning?
Thank you so much. I guess a couple of the things for us is that we're an older, we're like the 1950s style sales, but not quite as creepy. Ours are, taking people out to dinner, doing drinks, and going to other things that you can't get receipts to, old school selling. And that, because it's a relationship business, it takes 20 weeks to get you a tool. Hopefully your design doesn't go anywhere. We've had clients for 13, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And so it's a little bit different. For us, the hardest part is the connection. Like I said, I didn't really sell anything. I just did, it just calls in to make sure everything's fine. Especially when it comes to, and just kind of enhancing relationships with people, understanding what's going on, what their life's like, and understanding those changes. The bigger thing we looked into Zoom info, to try to gain and access, cell phone numbers. So it's a private company that essentially has a software that scrapes your signature. So if you're getting random calls and you're going, hey, no one calls me, how did you get my number? You're probably in there as well. So the only downside about that, they're about $17,000 a year for a small company like us. That's pretty insane. So we looked at kind of trying to leverage new and different things. And my basis behind that was that a lot of times people won't be forwarded to things. A lot of companies I'm going to might not have the technology to auto forward things right to the people I'm trying to reach. So I'm trying to reach a design engineer. More than likely, he's probably in and out of the office, but I need to be able to be on like a text message basis with him, that kind of a thing. And so that's why we tried to leverage that. We looked at it heavily. I think, if I can get a couple of things out of the demo, we might have some possibilities there. But just to be kind of aware of what technology is out there to be able to communicate with people. I see this as a great stepping stone, not necessarily as a replacement for visits, but a great natural maturation from phone to video, and then great stepping stone and bridge. But the other thing that really needs to improve, I guess, is being able to show products. It's really hard to show someone something on a screen. We're trying to perfect that, but somebody gets like a lockdown USB camera that we can do it and show kind of part information that would help. So I'm sure Keyence probably already has one that I could pay $70,000 for. But but outside of that, I think it really, for us, it's understanding kind of the technology, forcing to make sure cameras are on, being proactive, keeping your video on, and being that peer pressure in that way. And then also trying to push things directly to this format. So if someone says, hey, let's meet, you'll immediately get a Teams meeting. And then for us, I champion Teams about 2 months before COVID hit, made sure every single person was on it, showed people where gifts were to kind of break up the monotony of everyday life here, and just created threads to kind of keep people engaged. The biggest issue we have here is that we're in manufacturing, and we've been at it for a long time and been successful, and we don't have a real release. We've had to cancel the picnic. We've had to cancel pretty much everything. So we don't have a way of getting everybody out and meeting people. And that's been the hardest part, is trying to understand that need and fill that need however you can. Shipping your your clients chocolates from Fannie Mae, or something that said, hey, I thought of you, I knew you were from the Chicago area. Here's a Cubs hat, can't wait to see him back on the field, that kind of a thing. And just trying to come up with clever things to keep that human element and then ultimately answer. And as it is right now, I've been much more consultative, than anything else. Can you find this material? Where's it at? I don't, I've gotten 3 calls this week where I've gotten, Brian, I don't usually ask you this, but can you locate a material and ship it to your competitor? Well, yeah, usually I don't answer that call, but as it is right now, yeah, I have to. I don't have a choice. We've got great purchasing people. They've been able to pull, amazing finds for the material and being able to meet that need. We're even trying to find and locate material to ship overseas. So it's something that I really was not expecting, but it's been great. And thank you again for the time to meet and connect with you guys and kind of see where you guys are at. I wish you all the best of luck going forward. And please feel free to message me on LinkedIn. I'd love to, kind of keep this going. And if you have another one of these, I'd be very interested in joining it again. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Brian, thank you for all that. And we'll start bringing this into a close unless somebody else has an important point they want to make before we wrap up.
I have 2.
Let's hear them, Aaron.
So Brian, another one to look at is HubSpot. If you're going to do Zoom info, look at HubSpot as well. Great. They've served, both have served me pretty well. I will say Zoom info, it's worth the money.
It is. Yeah. That's the problem I have is I'm trying to sell to 2 finance guys. So for them, it's always about the ROI. It's like, hey, if I get this, then you got to bring in X amount. And I'm like, man, I really wish it was a formula like that every time. If I'm spending $100,000, you got to bring in $1 million more in sales. And I'm like, okay,
no problem.
So, yeah, sure. Easy.
And then the other one, Todd, you said that you getting your hands on the product, there's no substitute. In one of the other forums, we had a guy that sold pies, and he's saying, how do you during COVID sell pies virtually? And he came up with an innovative solution. He shipped the products pre-meeting. Mm-hmm. So that's maybe an idea for you. Get hands on the product and say, I'm shipping this to you in lieu of the meeting, and just ship them a sample.
Well, that has worked for us actually. We have done that. We'll find like a SIF manager or program manager, whoever, or, command sergeant major, connect even via LinkedIn. Yeah. If we don't have a prior connection or someone that can give us a
lot of people can't accept gifts, but if it's a free sample to discuss the product,
and there are absolutely, and they'll send them back to us, but we've actually just in the last 2 weeks have seen a number of orders come in directly related to that happening. Us sending a light, doing the demo virtually, then that person taking it to a training exercise, and then those people that were in the training exercise are either ordering individually or somebody's command sergeant major saying, I want 20 of those or whatever. So yeah, to your point, I mean, that has been effective for us. And also to your point, it's just how you, like, we're not sending you a gift. It's, T&E. Yeah. And, people are all about it. And it's shockingly, they send them back if they don't get stolen by someone else. So, which happens.
Brian, your point on the Cubs hat, that's great. What I found better is brand awareness,
No, we just redid the logo. I talked them into redoing the logo, and it took forever. So we brought the Ram back and kind of updated it. I found the guy who did like the Planters Peanut, found him on LinkedIn, and
they've shipped a ton of these all over the world. And
that's great. We've 2 owners. Our owners are members at Medina, and so that was the thing. It was very specific about the golf stuff. I'm like, wow, I struck a nerve. But yeah, Todd, one other thing you might want to look at too is a software called Vidyard. I don't know if you've done those or not, but short little videos that you can send that might be able to answer user specific questions that are a great little kind of addendum to it's a very specific solution. I had a couple of sales reps that I was working on for inspection software, and it was very specific. It was like, hey, I love your 11 blue laser thing, you're great, but I need to know about this. And he just shot me a little video and went back to it. And it was, the best part about it was that since it was in my inbox, I could take it down to R&D and go, see, I told you I was right. And so I could just play it back and, make the meat crow and then play it back again. So, but it happens every once in a while.
And we've done that recently as well. As a matter of fact, a perfect example that we did it Monday. So we have a mount for our lights that affixes to MOLLE webbing, like plate carrier. And there is new webbing now that's called laser cut. The previous ones were stitched on. Now these are just cut into the fabric. Well, our MOLLE mount still works with both, but it has to be employed differently. And we had a master sergeant deployed in the Air Force, and he called. He's like, "I'm the only guy that has this laser cut, but I have a feeling that people are going to ask about this." And I had just heard about it at the law enforcement trade show in St. Louis. Someone else had said something to me. So I took our LE sales guy, put him in front of a backdrop, did a short little video, and we pushed it out through all our socials too. But now we have the self-contained little thing, and it's becoming a series, like how to use infrared, how to use this.
Right.
And we have tutorials already, but these are much more targeted and timely and like in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just did that Monday. I launched it Tuesday, and we're already seeing, some impact from that. So, I certainly appreciate that, that angle, because it is effective, and going back to, like what all you guys know, because you guys are more salespeople than I am. I'm a marketing guy that supports sales, right? So it's those connections with people that we're making, helping them out. What can we do for you? We know we can't come on base, but what can we do? And we've probably crafted and started to develop more significant relationships, more new significant relationships in the last year than we have in probably the previous 5 years. Because when we were getting out, we were seeing people we knew a lot, or people that had heard about us or were warm, where, now we've kind of taken it upon ourselves to just find completely new. And, we've had someone else reference this, it might have been Dan, that, we're hearing from people that we started conversations with 2 years ago that we thought went away, but now things have changed for them. And, like talk about slow developing, but they're happening because, they're having to find different ways to do things as well. And, or their budgets are finally coming online, but it's that networking and those, continuous points of interaction, that have really helped us kind of getting the ship righted. And the virtual stuff has done that more, making introductions and meeting folks than actually selling. But eventually they will be sales, So it's been an interesting path for everyone, I'm sure. Here in the soybean fields, it's something. It's something.
Vaughn, I must say that we have engaged our marketing department for sales material much more, and that's been successful for us. We've actually our head of marketing now attends all the sales meetings, and she comes and she says, "Oh, can I do a white paper on this? Can I do a little video clip on that?" And like I said, she's now part of all of our sales meetings to spark that kind of creative thinking process.
Well, which is same with us. Kind of goes to the whole concept of sales enablement and marrying those into the sales process. So that's I'm hearing that from a lot of people. And you mentioned earlier, Aaron, you hold up the swag that you were sending out, the branded swag. In fact, I've got a client, it's one of my longer term clients in that field, all things swag. And his business is through the roof, like 300% increases.
This is the best one.
Is that the cover for the camera on the laptop?
Main cover for the camera. They cost nothing.
Nothing. And they're
right in front of your eyeball. And
it's got your brand right in front of your eye.
Every single customer, when they flip open the laptop, my name is in their face.
Mark Zuckerberg's worst nightmare.
Exactly.
I
even have one on my camera.
I'm so getting some of those.
Those are great. Fantastic. No, that's excellent. I was just invited to a show next week. We're doing the whole brand rollout, and it's been impressive. I thought getting them to agree on bringing back the Ram would be hard, and then I realized that getting them to agree on a golf shirt's the hardest thing in the world. So. We're new. So I just want to be able to give stuff away. Like you've got it all down. I'm like ready to mail out golf balls and stuff, So no, that's great.
Well, I get to carry everything to trade shows. So that's why the smaller, the better.
I like it. That's excellent.
It's self-preservation there.
That's it. That's right. Like I'm going to haul all this stuff around. I'm giving all these away. Yeah. That's excellent. Well, thanks guys. I've got to step off, but I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure meeting all of you.
Thank you, Brian. I think we'll bring it to a close with that. And you folks have been amazing today. This has been fantastic. I look forward to having you join future roundtables like this. If you have any topics that you'd like to bring to the forefront for us to put out there and have discussions around, please bring it on. And I look forward to seeing you all again in the very near future. You've been amazing. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, guys.
Great job today.
Have a good one. Bye now.